Bonjour tout le monde. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Toronto Metropolitan University for today's important gathering. My name is Mohamed Lachemi. I'm the President and Vice-Chancellor of TMU. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land we gathered on. Toronto is a dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land, subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. It's an honor to host Premier Ford, Ministers Quinn, Bervaldi, Fedeli, Mayor Chow, MPs Martin, Church, Chi, and Maloney, business leaders and partners from across sectors here at TMU today. And it's especially meaningful to welcome so many leaders who are helping shape Canada's future at a moment when economic security, resilience, and sovereignty matter more than ever. Toronto and the GTA are uniquely positioned to lead in this moment. This region brings together extraordinary talent, global financial leadership, and one of the most dynamic innovation ecosystems anywhere in the world. TMU is proud to be a long-standing partner of the Government of Ontario in helping build Canada's innovation and resilience capacity. Across our university, researchers, students, and partners are advancing work in cybersecurity, AI, aerospace, autonomous systems, and resilience infrastructure. Our Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst has become an internationally recognized hub for cybersecurity training, research, and entrepreneurship, helping strengthen Canada business, critical infrastructure, and the next generation of talent. And through the DMZ and our broader innovation ecosystem, we are helping founders and companies scale technologies that contribute to Canada's long-term competitiveness and security. At TMU, we believe sovereignty is not only about borders or geography. It's about whether our country has the talent, technology, research capacity, partnerships, and institutional strength to respond confidently to a changing world. That is the work happening here every day, and we are proud to contribute to a stronger, more resilient, and more sovereign Canada. With that, I would like now to invite Shaun Padulo, CEO of Ontario Shipyards, to the podium to share a few remarks. Shaun, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Premier Ford, ministers, MPs, Mayor Chow, distinguished guests, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Shaun Padulo, and I'm the CEO of Ontario Shipyards. Ontario Shipyards is the largest Canadian ship repair and construction company on the Great Lakes, and over the last 9 years, with the support of the province of Ontario, our company has grown by almost 10 times. That growth reflects what is possible when government understands industry, supports business, and backs people who build things. It's also one of the many reasons why I believe Toronto is the right choice for the Defence Security and Resilience Bank. Ontario Shipyards is representative of many companies across the province of Ontario. We're part of a massive industrial base that has not yet been fully activated for defense. As geopolitical pressures intensify and as the need to strengthen NATO becomes more urgent, Canada has an opportunity to mobilize that industrial base in a much more deliberate way. Ontario is the heart of Canada's industrial base, and as pressures build on traditional sectors in Ontario such as automotive, there's a real opportunity to transition skilled workers, advance manufacturing capacity, and existing infrastructure into defense and security work. But that transition will not happen on its own. It will require financing. The institutions that understand how to help companies retool, scale, and take on larger, more complex projects. And in that context, Ontario companies could become some of the largest, most important users of the Defence Security and Resilience Bank. At Ontario Shipyards alone, we require approximately $250 million in capital investments to modernize our yards and prepare for the next generation of Canadian defence and security work. And beyond that, the projects themselves will require billions of dollars in financing over time. It's humbling to say this, but in the broader defence and industrial landscape, Ontario Shipyards is still a relatively small company. There are much larger companies in Ontario facing similar opportunities at a far greater scale. And there are also startups yet to be born that will become significant players in the defence ecosystem. And on that note, I'd like to recognize the Ontario Defence Association and the work being led by my colleague Ted Kirkpatrick, who serves as chair of the board. The ODA is helping align industry, government, and key stakeholders around a simple but urgent objective: ensuring Ontario plays a key role in NATO's defence industrial future. Canada and its allies are serious about rebuilding defence procurement and strengthening supply chains. Ontario will be central to that effort. And Toronto is the natural headquarters for the Defence Security and Resilience Bank. I'd like to thank Prime Minister Carney for securing this opportunity for Canada, and simply say that Toronto has the talent pool, the financial institutions, the professional services infrastructure, the capacity and depth to support an institution of this scale. Toronto also has connectivity and global credibility required to support an institution of this importance from day one. I say that from personal experience. I've lived and worked in the Netherlands, Houston, Texas, and London, and have seen firsthand how critical connectivity is. Post-Brexit, Amsterdam has become an increasingly important financial center for the European Union. London remains one of the world's great financial centers, and New York is the financial capital of North America. Toronto is the financial capital of Canada and is strongly connected to all three. And so for representatives from our NATO allies, financial institutions, investors, public and private businesses moving between Europe, United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada, Toronto is a practical, credible, and highly connected choice. Famous economist Adam Smith once wrote about specialization and building on natural advantages. That principle applies here. Toronto's advantages are clear: finance, talent, infrastructure, office capacity, international connectivity, and proximity to Canada's largest industrial base. When building a global institution designed to mobilize capital for defense, security, and resilience, it makes sense to put it where advantages exist, in a place where the provincial government has demonstrated time and time again it supports economic development. That place is Toronto. Thank you, everyone. I'd be remiss to say if I didn't invite Blake Hutcheson up, one of our leading CEOs in this province. So Blake, please come up, sir.
Hi, everybody. I have the privilege of running OMERS pension plan. Roughly $250 billion of the pensioners in this province. And when I drive down a street, 1 out of 11 households in the province, one way or another, depends on the investments that we make. I am not a political person, and this is not a political speech. I'll leave that to the very well-established politicos to talk to the story. But I am a CEO of almost 30 years. And I realized two things as a CEO. The first is business travels at the speed of trust. And it's absolutely essential to be able to walk down the street, to sit down with your bankers, to sit down with your service providers, to get things done at a breakneck speed. And my entire life, particularly in the banking sector, it's critical that I know their kids, I know their families. We have, constant contact. And when trust is in a room, great things happen. When it's not in a room, it's difficult to happen. And so the banking environment for OMERS, and frankly, all the Ontario-based pension plans, has been critical to our success. The other thing I've learned as a CEO is that in order to compete at the absolute best level, you need to do everything properly. It is incredibly competitive world out there. No matter what you do, if you aren't great at it, you can't succeed. And Canada deserves a crack at being the solution for our NATO allies, and we can't compromise. We have to put our best foot forward. It's not a political statement, it's just a fact. And whenever I try to compete in a global context without our best foot forward, I don't do so well. And so those are the things that I've learned over the lifetime of being a CEO. I'm not here to disparage other parts of this is the greatest country in the world. We invest in every province. We invest in every city. We believe in this country wholeheartedly. This isn't about one or another or to disparage others. This is just about the case that Toronto has, above all others, to be a success, in my view. And it just so happens in this community, we don't have all the bank headquarters in this nation in Toronto, but we have the vast majority of them. We don't have all the pension plans residing here in Toronto. We have the vast majority of them. The accounting firms, their headquarters happen to be here in Toronto, very important counterparties to the activity and the success on a go-forward basis. The law firms are here, resident in Toronto. Again, not all of them, but the vast majority. The university sector, from a few hours away in this province, the vast majority of those getting graduated in this nation are here. I could go on. The stock exchange is here. The bond rating agencies are here. Again, it isn't a disparage, it's just a fact. We have the assets here to compete, and I think it's really imperative we put our best foot forward. I think our Prime Minister needs to make this a success. He deserves a ton of credit for it coming. The reality is he needs to succeed. Our country needs to succeed in this endeavor, but as importantly, we're going to partner with NATO allies, all 32 of them, we hope. They need us to succeed. And my best question and maybe challenge to the Prime Minister and to those who make this decision is please actually consider not only how we succeed as a nation, but talk to our NATO allies. Talk to them and ask a simple question. Where is it that you'd like this to be located so that it can succeed for you too? Because this shouldn't be a political issue. There are lots of places and ideas and institutions that can be spread across the country quite properly for political purposes. This isn't one of them. So that's my request of the Prime Minister. That's my request of all of us to get behind it. This is the natural solution. And I have a feeling, and the Mayor's going to talk about it better than I can, when we as a city come together to make this a success, we will better all hopes and expectations. We can make this spectacular by standing together. And with that, I'd invite the Mayor to say a few words.
Thank you, Blake. I'm joined here by Deputy Mayor Paul Ainsley, our Budget Chief Sherry Carroll, and Councillor James Pasternak. Thank you to President Lachemi, CEO, and all of the platform dignitaries, MP Maloney, and of course, Premier Ford for bringing us together to make a case for the Defense, Security, and Resilience Bank. Canada has been chosen. Now the question is, which Canadian city? The answer is Toronto, right? And I want to explain why, not with a list of credentials, but with a single idea that tells the whole story. When Allied governments established the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development in 1991, they chose London, a city that already had on day one the financial depth, the regulatory architecture, and the concentration of institutional capital the new bank would need to function. That is the test for a decision like this. Day one readiness. Now apply it to Toronto. In 1 month, FIFA comes to Toronto and the world will witness just how extraordinary we are. We have 315,000 finance and insurance professionals in this region, more than all the other Canadian cities combined. The big five banks are headquartered here, as you heard, so are OMERS, CPP Investment, and some of the most sophisticated institutional investors in the world, including the mining industry. The regulators, the clearing system, the market operators, all within a few blocks of each other on Bay Street, establishing very trusting working relationship. This isn't a pipeline. It is a fully operating financial ecosystem, the second largest in North America in employment. The DSRB wouldn't be building towards that capacity. It would be plugged into it immediately. Yes. And then there's the talent. Toronto is one of the most diverse cities on earth. People from every corner of the world come here, study here, build careers here, build their lives here. They give us a workforce with specialized depth in structured finance, risk, AI, cybersecurity, and defense policy, exactly what this bank will need from the start. And we are also very good at attracting global talents right here to Toronto. More than 100 consular offices operating in the Greater Toronto Area. Pearson is Canada's primary international gateway. Global connectivity isn't something we're aspiring to, it's something we already have. This institution will bring more than 3,500 jobs to Canada. It will elevate our profile on the world stage and reinforce our credibility as a trusted ally in a moment when that credibility genuinely matters. Toronto is where Canada's financial leadership lives. It is where the DSRB should live too. We are proud to make that case, we are confident in it, and we are ready to welcome this institution to our city. Thank you, and let me introduce to you MP James Maloney.
I'm old school. I wrote some notes down on the subway on the way down this morning. Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'm not here to say anything new. I'm here to say it again. Blake, you're quite right. We are three of us, several of us up here on the platform are politicians, but I'm not speaking as a politician today. I'm speaking as an advocate for Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area and the province of Ontario. Along with my many colleagues, I see Jean Yip, Leslie Church, Maggie Chi, newly elected Daniel Martin, Ali Assassi. I don't think I'm missing anybody over there. These are some of the incredibly loud, powerful voices we have in Ottawa representing you here in the city of Toronto. And there are 23 of us in Toronto. If you expand that beyond, the number grows to 40 and beyond. I see Alex Nuttall over there, Mayor of Barrie, former member of Parliament. You see, this is an advocacy piece on behalf of Toronto. Everybody here believes that Toronto is the right choice for this bank. Anybody disagree with that? Okay, good. All right, just want to get that off the table. So I will start by just adding my thanks to Prime Minister Carney. Prime Minister Carney, since he took office 1 year ago, has been working incredibly hard to make our economy resilient, to make our country strong, to make our country well known and respected on the international stage. And I want to say thank you to him because he has done that. And this is another step in that direction. Conceiving the DSRB, working with international partners, securing it for Canada was no small accomplishment. But the next step, of course, is making sure that it ends up in Toronto. And Blake's right. I mean, this is not about it's not about other cities. It's about Toronto. When people think of Canada and they think of the economic nucleus of this country, they think of Toronto. When people think of Canada and the financial sector, they think of Toronto. When they think of transportation, they think of Toronto. It's not a hard sell, ladies and gentlemen, to convince people that Toronto is not only the greatest city in Canada, but one of the greatest cities in the world, and certainly in North America. So I want to end by saying, to me, as somebody who lives in Toronto, who speaks on behalf of Toronto, this is the right choice. We have the financial capability. We have pension funds. And Blake, I'm glad you mentioned lawyers because I was one myself in Toronto. Maybe that's a downside. Maybe we have too many of them. I don't know. But not shame. It's something to be proud of. But look, we have the transportation infrastructure, the financial infrastructure, the pension infrastructure, the political will. So I will continue on behalf of the City of Toronto and beyond, along with my colleagues, to advocate for Toronto to be the place for the DSRB for all of the reasons we've heard about. And I want to end by introducing and thanking the Premier, because not only is the Premier my friend, we're both from Etobicoke. Maybe Etobicoke would be a good spot for it, Premier. We'll work on that later. That's the next step. But no, honestly, Premier, I want to say thank you, because you've been a very vocal person on this issue. You brought us all here together today. This isn't the first time. We're working together along with the mayor and people across the region. And I just want to say how much I appreciate your work and thank you. And we will continue to work with you as advocates for Toronto to make sure this ends up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, folks, thank you. I want to thank all the speakers. James, I agree, it should be in Etobicoke, but we'll transfer it downtown here somewhere. But before I begin, I just want to thank everyone here. I want to thank Dr. Lachemi for hosting us here at TMU and being a great advocate. So thank you, Mohamed. And it's great to be here with Minister Bethlenfalvy, Fideli, and Quinn, MP Maloney, and all his colleagues, Mayor Chow, obviously Blake, you heard from Blake and Shaun. But I want to welcome everyone from around Ontario. Yes, maybe the headquarters were really going out and saying, okay, Toronto, but this is about all of Ontario. I see Drew Dilkins all the way from Windsor. Great to see you. Mayor Marcus, here I go. This is a problem because there's a whole bunch of mayors, and I am going to forget someone, so I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. But all the mayors around our great province are going to benefit from this, and including if we're fortunate enough to win, including Ottawa. That is our capital. That is where the ministers sit. So they'll be included as well. I also want to welcome all the industry leaders with us today. Folks, just look at this room. You look around this room, we have representatives from our banking, our financial service sectors, which is the largest in Canada and second largest in North America. We have representatives from pension funds, accounting firms, law firms, telecommunications, transportation, and our incredible post-secondary sector, and our defense companies are here as well. We have consul generals here from our NATO partners and from democratic allies around the world. We have mayors from across Ontario, as I mentioned, that will be instrumental in this bid. They'll be instrumental in making sure defense contracts don't just stay here in Toronto, but get spread right around our great province. We're 1,070,000 square kilometers, and we want from east to west to north to south to everyone to benefit. Our federal members of parliament and city council members from Toronto and across the province. In other words, we have Team Ontario, united to support Toronto and Ontario's bid to host the Defence, Security and Resilience Bank. I know that everyone in this room was thrilled to hear the news when late last month, Canada was selected as a new host country for DSRB. I want to acknowledge the Prime Minister, because this just didn't happen overnight. The Prime Minister went out there, flew from country to country, was on the phones, meeting in person. So what a great job the Prime Minister did. I want to thank him. And it's only fitting that in an increasingly uncertain world, Canada is taking the lead as a stable, reliable, democratic partner in defense of our allies and our values. The DSRB is being set up with a mission of supporting democratic, like-minded countries as they invest in defense and collective security. And the benefits of the bank are very clear. The DSRB can turn Canada into a global capital of defense, financing, and manufacturing. It can create historic opportunities for Canadian workers, as you've heard, including 3,500 skilled jobs and thousands more secondary jobs, not just in the host city, as I mentioned, but across our country, strengthening Canada's economy and expanding our influence on the world stage for decades to come. Given Canada's long, proud history, working closely with our allies to protect our democratic values, Canada is ready and willing to make the bank a success. But to do that, we need the federal government to choose a host city for the bank that can help it hit the ground running, a place with world-class workforce, the banking and defense manufacturing expertise, and the global connections that will help the bank succeed. There's only one city in Canada that can truly provide everything the bank needs, and that city is Toronto, backed by Team Ontario, backed by all the other cities surrounding the city of Toronto and Ontario. The bank needs a host city that is one of the largest financial hubs in North America, that is home to all 5 of Canada's largest banks, bond rating agencies, and many of the country's largest pension funds, institutional investors, and the offices of over 40 more international banks. The bank needs a host city with a truly world-class workforce, with the largest defense, technology, AI, cybersecurity, and manufacturing sectors in the country. The bank needs a host city with a network of world-class universities and colleges, and I see many of the CEOs of the greatest colleges and universities here. I want to thank you. And top-tier global research institutions to guarantee a sustained supply of high-skilled workers that no other Canadian city can match. The bank needs a host city with more than 100 consul general's offices right here in Toronto. Folks, I always brag about this, about diversity, and I love it. There's 110 nationalities and nearly 200 languages represented in Ontario. International airports and rail, highway, and shipping networks, connecting to Canada, the rest of North America, and to the destinations around the world. Toronto and Ontario offer all these benefits, and we're willing to go above and beyond to support the DSRB. To start, the province will help the bank find interim home in the heart of downtown, which is at 200 Front Street West. The doors are waiting, that they're going to be open, the red carpet will be rolled out, and we will work with the bank to find a permanent home as well that meets its long-term needs. We also intend to issue a $500 million resilience bond to fund defense projects. This would be the first of its kind in Canada and could be used to support the DSRB if it is located in Ontario. Through Ontario Sustainable Bond Framework, and we can support the bank's mission by leveraging defense-related investments through our $4 billion Protect Ontario Account Investment Fund. Ontario is committed to supporting the DSRB, and above all others, Toronto and Ontario have what it takes to help the bank reach its full potential. That's why we're all here today. Let's come together as a united Team Ontario and Team Canada, making the case to the federal government and the Prime Minister for Toronto to be chosen. Let's hit the phones and reach out wherever we can to support Toronto and Ontario's bid. And let's leave here today focused on how each and every one of us can support Toronto's bid and make the DSRB a success if Toronto and Ontario are chosen to host the bank. That's my message to everyone here. Team Ontario, let's get it done, and let's bring the DSRB home to Toronto. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario, and may God bless the people of Canada. Thank you.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
I did want to.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Pinkerton from the Trillium. My question is for Premier Ford. Premier, will you share the amount that Metrolinx has agreed to pay Carmen Negro's company in their air rights settlement? And if not, why shouldn't taxpayers be allowed to know how much of their money was used for this?
First of all, I don't get involved in private sector business, so maybe you can ask them. Next question.
Okay, so Carmen Negro is a friend of yours. You've appointed him as the chair of the LCBO, onto Invest Ontario, onto the Ontario Place Corporation. Can you trust that his judgment for what the best use of taxpayer money is after he sought and was paid? What portion of this is unclear at this point, but $500 million from the government through the settlement?
Well, let me say it this way. We have business leaders all in this room, some of the Fortune 500 companies in this room. I don't get involved in people's business. Simple. Next question.
Michelle Song, CBC News. I'm wondering if Ottawa has given you any clarity about the criteria for this election process.
No, they haven't per se, but James, do you know anything I don't know? Oh, okay. But look at the group. You know, this is the who's who of every single sector, no matter if it's academia or finance or defense, and I could just keep listing it off. This is the power of Ontario. And it's, of course, Toronto will be the headquarters, but I keep emphasizing it's not just Toronto. It's about outlying areas, be it from Windsor to Barrie, and Ottawa, and right across our great province. That's what's going to allow us to host this DSRB right here in Toronto. This is the hub.
Hey, John Woodward from CTV News. Speaking of bringing the world to Toronto, as you know, we've got the World Cup coming up. They're going to need transit to get there. There is a contentious labor negotiation right now with a deadline in just a couple days. And I wondered if you would support back-to-work legislation to make sure the trains run during the World Cup.
Well, hopefully they can come to their senses, both parties. I never take one side or the other. Let's sit in the room, lock the door, and then come out with a deal. We've been going through this for decades and decades. On many negotiations. First, put the people in Toronto that's hosting it ahead of the negotiations. Maybe they can take a break and go back to work and support a world-class event like FIFA. That would go a long way, I think, for the people of Ontario to see that happen.
And this next one's for Mayor Chow. You've seen the news about Councillor Candevel's investigation. I wondered what you thought of that in general, and also, given that most of it appears to be his interactions with developers, whether he should take a back seat at the community councils while this plays out.
Well, the residents of Toronto expect every councillor and the mayor to act with integrity. It is, I believe, there's an ongoing investigation going on. It's not proper for me to comment.
Hi, Barbara with QP Briefing. Question is for the Premier. Premier, I wanted to ask you about Bill 9. This is the bill that will make it possible to remove from office a councillor who commits misconduct. This bill has not made any real progress since May last year, and there are many cases of misconduct. More recently, we just had the news that a Toronto councillor is under OPP investigation. So are you still committed to passing this bill before the next municipal elections in October?
Yeah, great question. We're working with Minister Flack, Municipal Housing, and we're going to work on this and hopefully get this through.
Right. Can you be just a little bit more specific? Like, is there any specific part of this bill that is posing a challenge? Because I think you had said in the past that this would be a priority, and now we only have a couple of weeks left of sitting at Queen's Park. So why is it taking so long?
Well, we're going to cross the T's, dot the I's. We're dealing with 444 municipalities and many integrity commissioners right around the province, and we want to come up with a standardized system. What is good for Toronto has to be good for Kenora and good for the rest of the province, and it doesn't seem to be consistent right across our province. So we're working on it to make sure there's consistency and standardization across all 444 municipalities.
Hi, Richard Southern, 680 News Radio for the Premier. Sir, it's been almost 3 weeks since the sale of that $30 million private jet. Do you still intend to release the receipts to Ontarians as promised?
Absolutely.
And if so, when, sir?
Richard, the lawyers are just doing the paperwork. As everyone knows, we sent it back to Bombardier. So I know you're very, very anxious. I promise you, I will call you the second we get that done, but it will be very shortly. Thank you.
And on another matter, speaking of the World Cup, I know the mayor is, I think it's $5 million short as far as the free fan fest she was hoping to offer Ontarians. Would the province be willing to step up, Premier, and cover the outstanding cost of that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have promised that we will not spend one dime more than what we've said we would spend, which is $380 million, and we will find the funds within that budget envelope.
Rhianna Lim, the Canadian Press, for Premier Ford.
Thanks for jumping in there, Mayor. That was nice. That was right. I was going to get OMERS to sponsor it, but that's all right. Sorry. Thank you.
Politicians in Quebec are accusing Toronto and Ontario of fear-mongering and invoking the threat of a Quebec referendum to undermine Montreal's bid for the defense bank. What do you have to say in response to that?
Well, I say go Habs. You know, Montreal's great. And I can't believe I just said go Habs. So to my friend Keith Pelly at MLSE, I apologize, but we're cheering on the Habs, Canadian team. We love Montreal. And I can tell you I love Quebecers as well. This is a process that the whole country's going through, and the Prime Minister will have to make a decision. But I don't believe in tacking any other bids. I just don't believe in that. Montreal and Quebecers, they're fine people.
Well, just on that note, amid those accusations, do you think that the bidding process will impact Ontario's relationship with Quebec at all?
Never at all. We have an incredible relationship with Quebec. I've had an incredible relationship with the former Premier Legault. I've talked to the new Premier, and we're going to continue having that great relationship. And the population, we have probably close to 60%, probably more than 60% of the overall population in Canada, and it's critical that we work together. I believe in collaboration and cooperation. I've said that for the last 8 years as Premier. I don't care about political stripes. I want to do what's best for the country and what's best for Ontario.
Have you set out where exactly this bank would exist if you are the successful candidate?
Well, right now it'd be immediately it'd be the WSIB building that's sitting empty at 200 King Street. But there's other options. We would work with the mayor and look at all options. So we'd be excited and we'd be very, very grateful if the Prime Minister chose Toronto. And I want to emphasize again, yes, headquarters in Toronto, but there's everything from Windsor to Barrie to Mississauga and Brampton and Aurora. Great to see you, Mayor of Aurora. Right, Rod? He's on board 1,000%. Yeah, so everyone else that can benefit, including Ottawa. I had a great conversation with the mayor the other day and mentioned that they have one of the largest tech sectors in all of Ontario, Ottawa.
This will be the last reporter.
Good morning still from, it's Jamie with City TV, Auditor General's report. First of all, do you feel safe with what you read about in the report about truck drivers not even learning to back up their trucks or make left-hand turns and still getting a partial permit?
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Jamie, for that question. We take anything very serious when it comes to training schools. And if we find one training school that is not going by the guidelines, not training the truck drivers, they're done, they're gone. You won't hear of them anymore because they have a massive responsibility when they're driving on the highways, especially up in the north, to be professionally trained. And if that's not happening, we get wind of it, we will shut them down the second we find out.
There were three other subjects that were highlighted in the Auditor General's report. So I'm going to try and mash all three questions in at the same time. But first of all, education. IEP's individual education plans, setting those up is far exceeding the rate of inflation and putting financial stress onto the system. There's other factors too. I know you're putting billions into the education system, but it's not keeping up with the rate of inflation, with their needs, and with building catch up in repairs, everything of education. Is there any more money going into the education system so they can keep their heads above water?
I just want to clarify, are we talking colleges and universities, or are we talking?
In the Auditor General's report, with individual education plans that are guided more to primary schools.
Okay, well, in the primary schools, the TDSB was underwater for $52 million have been underwater. As far as I'm concerned, they've been mismanaged for many, many years. We put in a supervisor. We're actually putting in CEOs rather than supervisors, because when you're operating a multi-billion-dollar budget, you need someone who's astute and financially astute to run these school boards, and that's exactly what we're doing. Paul Klander, our minister, is doing an incredible job. We want to make the system better and make sure those dollars are going into the classroom, focusing on the students, and the educators as well. That's what we're focusing on right across the province, and standardizing education right across the province.
And then when I look at the Financial Reporting Office too, there was also highlights in that part of the report suggesting that there's billions of dollars that aren't getting to single parents or in support, child support, and some of their applications are 8.5 months. If
it's the same one, I'm a little confused. If it's the same one, Jamie, there's about $4 billion going to those parents, and if there's any issues, we've funded that part more than any government in the history of this country, not to mention the province. So we're going to keep moving forward and supporting that sector, but we have to make sure there's accountability and it's run properly, because there's I'll tell you, some of the stories I've heard, people fall off their chair on the waste of money. But our focus is in the classroom with the educators and getting our kids educated to get out into the work world after they go to college and university for in-demand jobs. And I want to thank all the universities and colleges for the incredible job that we're doing. I want to thank the Minister, Nolan Quinn, for doing an incredible job. That we are sinking over $6.4 billion additional dollars. I think we're up to $7 billion. But we have the best. That's all I say. We have the best universities, the best grads, 94,000 STEM graduates. We're going to be up over 100,000. No jurisdiction in North America can say that they have 100,000 STEM grads. And I know Minister of Economic Development, Vic Fideli, and myself and our whole team, it's our #1 selling feature. And that's our #1 selling feature for the DSRB. The talent is here. There's talent everywhere, but nothing like here in Toronto, in the greater Toronto area. Our colleges and universities, I'll put them up against any university or college anywhere in the world. We have the best of the best. Folks, I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming and standing behind the bid for Toronto. We live in the greatest jurisdiction anywhere in the entire world, and we're an economic powerhouse, no matter if it comes to energy or critical minerals or tech. And I could keep going down and telling you about every sector, but we have the best of the best. Team Ontario, Team Canada, all the way. Again, thank you. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.